University. Thank you for your insights and for being with us here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you. Dear viewers, that was Dr. Isa Al-Anizi with us here. Hope you have had an elaborative answers. And now we will take a break and come back to you.
في ظل الأوضاع الراهنة معكم اليوم وزارة التجارة والصناعة المعنية في ملف الأمن الغذائي. اليوم نطمنكم بأن الوضع التمويني مستقر تماما ولا يوجد أي نقص في المواد الغذائية الأساسية. كذلك حركة الأسواق طبيعية والسلع متوفرة في نقاط البيع والمخازن بشكل منتظم. إنتاج المياه في المصانع المحلية مستمر على مدار الساعة لضمان تلبية احتياجات الجميع. سلاسل الإمداد تعمل بشكل طبيعي وسلس ولا توجد أي عوائق في تدفق السلع إلى الأسواق، كما أن الأسواق المركزية وجميع نقاط البيع تعمل بشكل طبيعي، والجمعيات التعاونية تواصل نشاطها المعتاد دون أي تأثير. ونؤكد على الجاهزية الكاملة لخطط الطوارئ مع استمرار فرق الرقابة التجارية في متابعة الأسواق ميدانيا بشكل يومي لضمان استقرار الأسعار وتوفر السلع الأساسية فيها. لذلك اليوم احنا نطمنكم ونبشركم بأن الأمور طيبة إن شاء الله ويحافظ الله.
تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها للاستجابة للطوارئ والكوارث في ظل الأوضاع الجيوسياسية الحاصلة في المنطقة. جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي تعمل من ضمن منظومة إنسانية متكاملة مع مؤسسات دولة الكويت من حيث الاستجابة السريعة وتجهيز المتطوعين من ضمن أفرقة مختلفة للاستجابة للطوارئ في سرعة قصوى. يعد متطوعين جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من المتطوعين اللي تم تدريبهم مكثفاً في الإسعافات الأولية والاستجابة للكوارث والاستجابة الميدانية. تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها الميدانية ورفع جاهزيتها من حيث الاستجابة للطوارئ في حالات اللي يتم ندائها. بالنسبة للمخزون الاستراتيجي لجمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي فإحنا على أتم الاستعداد للاستجابة في حال النداء من قبل مؤسسات حكومة دولة الكويت.
تؤكد وزارة الكهرباء والماء والطاقة المتجددة بأن عمليات توليد الطاقة الكهربائية وتحلية المياه تسير وفق الخطط التشغيلية المعتادة، وتؤكد الوزارة على جاهزيتها التامة للتعامل مع أي طارئ من خلال خطط متكاملة تتضمن الإجراءات الواجب اتباعها لاستمرارية الكهرباء والماء. وتوفر لدى الوزارة كفاءات وطنية مؤهلة وعلى أعلى درجات الاستعداد لتفعيل هذه الخطط متى ما دعت الحاجة. والمخزون الاستراتيجي من المياه العذبة في البلاد في ازدياد، إلى جانب توفر مخزون من المياه الجوفية، مما يعزز قدرة المنظومة الوطنية على الصمود والتعامل مع مختلف الظروف.
بتوجيهات مباشرة ومتابعة حثيثة ومتواصلة من قبل مجلس الوزراء ووزيرة الشؤون الاجتماعية الدكتورة أمثال الحويلة، سارعت وزارة الشؤون إلى وضع الخطط المسبقة التي تهدف من خلالها إلى المحافظة على مستويات المخزون الاستراتيجي من السلع المواد الغذائية والاستهلاكية، ولضمان سلاسة وسهولة تدفقها إلى الأسواق التعاونية. قامت وزارة الشؤون ممثلة بقطاع التعاون بتشكيل 6 فرق ميدانية بواقع فريق لكل محافظة، وذلك للمتابعة اليومية للتأكد من كفاية المخزون الاستراتيجي. إن هذا العمل هو ثمرة تنسيق وتخطيط مسبق مع جهات الدولة المختصة التي وضعت لضمان استدامة الأمن الغذائي في مختلف الأوقات، ودامت الكويت بحفظ الله ورعايته.
قوة الإطفاء العام على استعداد تام وجاهزية للتعامل مع أي طارئ على مدار الساعة من خلال مراكزها البرية والبحرية والمطارات، ونحن نعمل وفق خطط طوارئ متكاملة بتجهيزات متطورة وكوادر مدربة على أعلى مستوى لضمان سرعة الاستجابة وكفاءة التعامل مع مختلف البلاغات سواء كانت خطرة أو بسيطة. وهذا الاستعداد والجاهزية لدينا مستمرة على مدار العام حفاظاً على سلامة الأرواح والممتلكات وتحقيق الأمن المجتمعي.
في ظل الأوضاع الراهنة معكم اليوم وزارة التجارة والصناعة المعنية في ملف الأمن الغذائي. اليوم نطمنكم بأن الوضع التمويني مستقر تماماً ولا يوجد أي نقص في المواد الغذائية الأساسية. كذلك حركة الأسواق طبيعية والسلع متوفرة في نقاط البيع والمخازن بشكل منتظم. إنتاج المياه في المصانع المحلية مستمر على مدار الساعة لضمان تلبية احتياجات الجميع. سلاسل الإمداد تعمل بشكل طبيعي وسلس ولا توجد أي عوائق في تدفق السلع إلى الأسواق، كما أن الأسواق المركزية وجميع نقاط البيع تعمل بشكل طبيعي، والجمعيات التعاونية تواصل نشاطها المعتاد دون أي تأثير. ونؤكد على الجاهزية الكاملة لخطط الطوارئ مع استمرار فرق الرقابة التجارية في متابعة الأسواق ميدانياً بشكل يومي لضمان استقرار الأسعار وتوفر السلع الأساسية فيها. لذلك اليوم احنا نطمنكم ونبشركم بأن الأمور طيبة إن شاء الله ويحافظ الله.
The Public Institution for Social Security announced that it will be unable to receive visitors starting today at all its branches due to technical procedures being undertaken by the institution to enhance the capabilities of the Disaster Recovery Centre. The institution added in its official account that servers are currently being transferred from the main headquarters to the temporary headquarters, which requires the temporary suspension of some services. It explained that the date for resuming the reception of visitors and restoring services as they were will be announced for all branches of the institution except for the main headquarters. The ministry points out that personal social media accounts should not be relied upon as sources of news unless verified through official sources in order to maintain the credibility of media content and prevent the spread of inaccurate information. Let's get more details in this report.
The Ministry of Information stressed the necessity for all media outlets, platforms and media professionals to adhere to the regulations and directives governing the coverage of events occurring in the country and the region. This is part of efforts to organize media work and ensure the accuracy and credibility of content published on broadcast across various media platforms. The ministry said in a statement that it issued a circular to all media outlets and their accredited correspondents regarding media coverage rules, noting that the current stage requires the highest level of professionalism, responsibility in reporting news and information. It emphasized the importance of obtaining news and data from official or reliable sources and fully verifying accuracy and credibility before publishing or broadcasting any media material. The circular also stressed the prohibition of publishing or circulating rumors, unreliable news, or misleading information, and the necessity to correct any inaccurate information immediately through proper legal and professional channels. It highlighted the importance of clearly citing sources of information and media materials when publishing or republishing content. The ministry pointed out that personal social media accounts should not be relied upon as sources of news unless verified through official sources, in order to maintain the credibility of media content and prevent the spread of inaccurate information. Regarding field coverage, the ministry emphasized that live broadcasting or media coverage from event sites is not permitted without prior approval from the competent authorities and the Ministry of Information, in addition to adhering to instructions and directives issued by the ministry and official entities during media coverage of events or activities. The circular also prohibits aerial photography or the use of drones for media purposes without obtaining the necessary official permits from the competent authorities in the state. It further stressed the importance of not publishing or broadcasting any content that insults brotherly or friendly countries or harms Kuwait's foreign relations, as well as respecting individual privacy by not publishing any personal information, photos, or data without the consent of the owners or a legal justification. The ministry confirmed that any media activity must be conducted under a license issued by the ministry and within the applicable legal frameworks, ensuring that license is used solely for its intended purpose and not exploited for unauthorized media or commercial activities. All media outlets and professionals are required to comply with any directives or instructions issued by the Ministry of Information for emergency circumstances. The ministry renewed its emphasis that adherence to these guidelines is part of the national and professional responsibility of the media, contributing to maintaining the credibility of media message and protecting the public interest. It stated that all media outlets and professionals must comply with this circular and confirmed that legal measures will be taken against violators in accordance with the laws and regulations governing media work in the state of Kuwait.
And now we are back with you and still giving the latest in local and regional news. And now we have a special guest right here in the studio, Mr. Abdulaziz Al-Anjari, founder and CEO of Reconnaissance Research, an independent think tank based in Kuwait, and also a member of the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and also a regular columnist with commentary featured in regional and international media. Mr. Abdulaziz Al-Anjari, thank you for being with us here.
You're most welcome. I'm delighted.
Thank you. So let's get through it, Mr. Abdulaziz. But before we start with our latest question on the regional news and what's happening, could you please tell us a little bit more about yourself and a background of you and of Reconnaissance Research as well?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I wish that this would have happened in better circumstances, but nevertheless, it's always good to be part of the official government TV network to speak about what we do and what we hope to continue to do. Reconnaissance Research is a think tank, and it is not yet to the level of what we hope think tanks can be, but we are striving to become two things: a platform for ideas and opinions from people with merit, whether in Kuwait or outside Kuwait, and a bridge connecting Kuwait and Kuwaitis with every country that we have diplomatic relations with. Diplomacy is not only politics, it's economy, it's culture, it's art, and the interpersonal relations between Kuwait and the other countries. So when we started in 2019, our aim was we don't speak but allow those with experience to share their ideas. Mm-hmm. For a local audience that needs to listen to people who know what they are talking about, to find good sources for that information. We do a lot of closed roundtable discussions. We care more about the substance of what we discuss rather than the bells and whistles of doing an event. Mm-hmm. We are prone to cater more to a niche group of sometimes PhD students, fresh graduates, who want to speak with others to discuss many things. We had delegations from Japan, India, as well as the US and many countries in Europe as well.
Mm-hmm. And well, that's clear about the excellent work you guys are doing. So in a related context, if we move to what sadly has been happening about the heinous strikes been happening, so to what extent and access do you assess the level of the Iranian attacks? Do you think they're exaggerated by the media, or do you think they are at high and escalating?
I don't think there is anything exaggerated. If there is anything, is the contrary. I think there is a downplay of the real impact of what Iran is doing for the sake of making people feel calm and have as much of a normal day-to-day routine as possible in an abnormal situation. Kuwait is not part that took any offensive against Iran, and we know that back in June 2025, when there was the 12-day attack against Iran by Israel, Iran proved that its missiles can go over Iraq, Jordan, Syria, penetrate the Iron Dome, and hit Israel. So if the aim was to hurt Israel, why bomb friendly, neutral nations that didn't harm you? That's number one. Number two, if the aim is not to harm Kuwait and the GCC countries, and the aim is to hurt the US by attacking its resources in the region, well, we all know, unfortunately, if you put the Gulf and Israel in two sides, the US will always choose Israel. So again, why don't they send their missiles to Israel to prove their point? I think there is a malicious intent, and every little hope we had to have good relations with Iran, I think, is now out of the window. I personally was one of the people who were very happy when Saudi Arabia normalized back its relations with Iran. I thought it was the dawn of a new era for peace in the region. Iran could have done what it's been doing in a completely different way to appease to the Gulf populace. They did completely the opposite. And if you go to how the relationship between the US and Japan were after the bomb, nobody would think the relationships would become good. If you look at Germany and France after World War II, nobody would think they will become good again. That doesn't mean I see a good relationship with Iran in the future. It will take a lot, what I mean to say, a lot for Iran to have a portion of the relations they had just a few weeks ago. And the amount of hurt, damage, especially when human souls are taken because of that attack, both military and civilian, there is no turning back. I don't wish in my lifetime, God knows how long I will live, I don't wish to have any closer proximity with Iran. I think it's done.
They have destroyed.
They have destroyed it. They have severed the bridges that many people took it upon themselves to build and to prove you can have good, coherent, normal relations with Iran. I think this is impossible to even speak about right now.
Yes, well, that's clear. And what about our defense system? How long can we, or to what extent can we defend ourselves without an intervention of any US or Western military partner against Iranian heinous attacks?
If I know the answer, I shouldn't say it. There was an email by the Ministry of Information today giving direct instructions to everybody who is in the media what to say and what not to say. So I don't know the answer. I don't know how long we can last. But even if I know, we shouldn't say.
We shouldn't say.
We shouldn't say. But I have to admit, I was positively surprised that the Kuwait military was very resilient, equipped, prepared, beyond what we imagined. There is something called the safety curse. It happens with every country that has a military base from a foreign entity to protect it. It makes your military appear weaker, less enthusiastic, and we thought maybe we have that in Kuwait. I think the current attacks by Iran proved we have a strong military, a great leadership, accuracy, and whether it is missiles or drones, the effectiveness of the Kuwait military was applaudable and immensely amazing.
Yes. So, and what about the recent Iranian attacks and strikes that have been happening? Do you see them from a perspective that they're seeking war with the GCC or using the GCC at their advantage as a, let's say, bargaining tool or for economic concessions, for example, against the West?
You don't bargain with innocent people. You don't hide behind well-curated wordings to justify killing innocent people. And to be honest, the attack on Iran itself was not justified. We know this was not a war initiated for good reason. The US administration said it is about dismantling the Iranian nuclear capabilities. A few days later, they said it's about a regime change and removing radical Islam. And then they said it's about democracy and peace. And then they said if we didn't attack, Iran would have attacked us in the US. I don't see how that is possible. And then they said, well, combining the oil reserves of Iran and Venezuela, the US will have its hold on 31% of the oil reserve. So the attack itself was inconceivable. It was an attack pressured by the Israeli lobby in Washington and the Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, and we already know that. People need to understand, a lobby isn't somebody that pays money for a US official to take a stand that aligns with him. A lobby is about being present in Washington, speaking regularly, attending seminars, countering the argument that people are throwing at you. And I just saw, and I'm very happy I read it before I came here, an interview in the Arab Times with former Ambassador Joey Hood, who was very critical about the US administration tackling this issue, especially the way that Kuwait and the Gulf were forced to be in this situation. And I applaud him for being very honest and very loyal to the time he spent in Kuwait. We don't have people in the Gulf to speak about the Gulf in Washington. We don't have voices that are independent that can explain to the American people and the American political circle why this action is bad for us, why this action is better for us. If you are not on the table, you are on the agenda. If I'm discussing your country and nobody from your country is at the table, others will take decisions that impact you. And I think this is a problem that is not about the current Kuwaiti government or the current GCC situation. It has been going on for decades. So gradually, the Israeli lobby was able to be present when Gulf voices are not present, to write letters to politicians showing critique of certain policies. We don't have that. They appear in more TV channels expressing their ideas. We don't have anybody appearing in any mainstream news channel in the US. By time, gradual build-up becomes something meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean it's end game for us? No. We have the ability to do a lot, because guess what? Truth is easier to market. People believe the truth much easier than they believe a lie or a propaganda made by the occupied territory of Israel. So we have a lot we can do, but we need to push the green button saying this is something that should be in our agenda. We need vocal, loud, credible, professional voices all around the world speaking about what is good for us and what is bad for us, countering any possible narrative that could harm us. Iran didn't receive US and Israeli strikes overnight. People have been talking about it, at least seriously, since August. Where have we been since August, September, October, November, December, January? Kuwaitis and others. We are not there. So when you are not there, others will make decisions that impact your life.
Mm-hmm. So let's also still focus on the security aspect. Now, oil tankers are being blocked, and energy facilities and vital infrastructure being targeted in the GCC countries. And of course, the state of Qatar and the state of Kuwait have applied the force majeure about the, of course, liquefied natural gas and the oil. Talk to us about the effectiveness of the response of the GCC nations, because it did surprise the United States and the Israeli occupation, as we see our diplomatic response.
It's not a good thing, but I'm very happy it happened. You know why? When we cannot import what goods and services we need, we get to have the shortest end of the stick. But when we cannot export energy to countries that need it, they will feel the pain. They will feel the need to act. They will have to mobilize to put more pressure to stop this nonsense from continuing. So I'm very happy, though it's not something that makes you happy, but for the current situation, when people need something from us that we can no longer deliver because of this ridiculous war that is happening, more people will say, we will not be watching from a distance. We have to act to put more pressure on the US administration. Yes, they have to take action. And how long will this last? Nobody knows. Back in June 2025, it was small, isolated, and it lasted 12 days. This time, nobody has a clear answer.
And the US wasn't directly involved back then.
Yes.
As in,
Well, technically, every country in the world has the US sharing its borders. The US acts like a neighboring country. And when somebody says, Abdulaziz, why are you critical of the current US administration? You cannot do that. I have to distinguish. If you have a contract with a company, a very good company, and they have a new general manager, I could be critical of this new general manager's way of managing the company, but that doesn't mean I will sever my bridges with that company. The relationship we have with the US goes beyond a president who will stay for 4 years. And the US has a very beautiful thing in the way they act. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is mechanical. Everything has a moving part and everything can change. And they have the ability sometimes to listen to voices they didn't listen to and change their policy.
and what about that was for the security aspect. Now, if we speak of the international relations, can the GCC, based on what you see in Washington, still stay under the umbrella, US security umbrella, especially if Iran increases its heinous strikes?
Nothing is black and white. Everything in the world is interconnected. And you have to understand there is no easy solution. Otherwise, everybody will be a great manager, everybody will be a great minister, everybody will be a great head of state. Countries struggle because of the interconnected bits and pieces that makes every decision impact other decisions, and it becomes very complicated for you to decide what is the best thing to do. But as I just said earlier, if we have currently a problem with the US administration treating the Gulf as receptors of orders rather than partners that should be consulted about something that is impacting them. Is this something that will be long term? No. Is this something that makes us decide the US Army's bases are a threat to us? No. It makes for a good argument to renegotiate, a good argument to sit down and speak frankly without the political jargon that goes around for public appearances. There are things you say for the public, and there are things you say because you want the public to be aware of it. But when you sit down, close doors, and you speak freely, the US is one of the best governmental systems that allows for such meetings, such honesty to have an impact. But you need to be there. You need to speak. And before you go, and before you speak, you need to decide what is your strategy, what is your vision, what are the best attributes of your relationship with the US since the liberation in 1991? What are the worst parts of this relationship? How can we keep the good aspects and make sure they stay? How can we overcome the negativities that we felt and make sure if they don't happen, at least they don't happen as frequent? Is that vision available? Is it clear? Do we know what is the path we would like to have with the US in the future? Is it about Republicans and Democrats? Is it about somebody we know personally who becomes a president? We need to have a vision. I am not privy to know if there is a vision or not. From my seat as a citizen, I don't see that vision. It could be there. I don't know.
We're still speaking about Iran, and we've seen the US president have been speaking about Iran becoming a nuclear state. Since you were telling me much about the US, so what if Iran becomes a nuclear state? What does it change for the calculations of the GCC?
If Iran was close to be a nuclear state, not even a fly from Israel will go and attack Iran. There is no proof. Netanyahu personally, since the mid-80s, and that is on the record, speaking in Israel and to congressional members in the United States and saying this and repeating it since the mid-80s. Iran is few months away from acquiring a nuclear bomb. So he's been saying that for 40 years, and every time he says it, he says Iran is 2 months close to having a nuclear bomb.
Okay, so that has been said
We are,
many times.
we are victims of the Israeli propaganda that has impact on US policy with a lack of visibility voices from our region. At the end, Iran currently is a state that proved it cannot be a reliable neighbor. Iran is a state that doesn't respect international law, and if they want us to be in a war mode, moving from defensive to offensive, it doesn't look like this is going to happen. And alhamdulillah, we have wise leadership that knows you cannot force us to take action that we don't wish to have. I think there should be more ways to isolate Iran, either economically, diplomatically. It is a country, at least for the foreseeable future, we don't wish to deal with and we cannot deal with. And that doesn't mean we harm innocent Iranians living in Kuwait or the Gulf. I saw very unpleasant statements by reckless people trying to bring back the bad experiment that the US did with Japan during World War II. Innocent Japanese people were succumbed to racism and racial profiling. Iran is not Iranians legally in Kuwait working, seeing Kuwait as maybe a real home to them rather than Iran. This is something we need to distinguish. Kuwait has always been rahuma, gentle with those who come and live with us and take part in our society and the building of our communities.
Exactly. That's clear, Mr. Abdulaziz. We'll get back for more details within our discussions, but let's get a quick break and come back to you.
Gauge of stocks across the globe fell by 0.84%, while the Pan-European Stock 600 Index closed down.
ولا يوجد أي نقص في المواد الغذائية الأساسية. كذلك حركة الأسواق طبيعية والسلع متوفرة في نقاط البيع والمخازن بشكل منتظم. إنتاج المياه في المصانع المحلية مستمر على مدار الساعة لضمان تلبية احتياجات الجميع. سلاسل الإمداد تعمل بشكل طبيعي وسلس ولا توجد أي عوائق في تدفق السلع إلى الأسواق. كما أن الأسواق المركزية وجميع نقاط البيع تعمل بشكل طبيعي والجمعيات التعاونية تواصل نشاطها المعتاد دون أي تأثير. ونؤكد على الجاهزية الكاملة لخطط الطوارئ مع استمرار فرق الرقابة التجارية في متابعة الأسواق ميدانياً بشكل يومي لضمان استقرار الأسعار وتوفر السلع الأساسية فيها. لذلك اليوم احنا نطمنكم ونبشركم بأن الأمور طيبة إن شاء الله ويحافظ الله.
تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها للاستجابة للطوارئ والكوارث في ظل الأوضاع الجيوسياسية الحاصلة في المنطقة. جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي تعمل من ضمن منظومة إنسانية متكاملة مع مؤسسات دولة الكويت من حيث الاستجابة السريعة وتجهيز المتطوعين من ضمن أفرقة مختلفة للاستجابة للطوارئ في سرعة قصوى. يعد متطوعين جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من المتطوعين اللي تم تدريبهم مكثفاً في الإسعافات الأولية والاستجابة للكوارث والاستجابة الميدانية. تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها الميدانية ورفع جاهزيتها من حيث الاستجابة للطوارئ في حالات اللي يتم ندائها. بالنسبة للمخزون الاستراتيجي لجمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي فإحنا على أتم الاستعداد للاستجابة في حال النداء من قبل مؤسسات حكومة دولة الكويت.
Now we have a live phone call with Mr. Mazen Al-Ansari, former acting assistant under Secretary of Foreign Media. After a very warm welcome, Mr. Mazen, could you please inform us of during periods of regional conflict, how can international media shape global perceptions and of course unfolding in the region, and what impact can it have on the public opinion?
A very good evening to you, Abdulrahman. Thank you for inviting me on the program. I was just listening to you guys discussing politics. So this is a little bit of a change, thank goodness. So your question is concerning the media coverage, how international media coverage shapes global perceptions, correct?
Yes. So how can what impact can the international media coverage have on global perception, and especially during such difficult times, and how can it even what change can it have on the public opinion? worldwide.
Yeah. Okay, so during periods of regional conflict, as what is happening in our part of the world right now, international media coverage plays an important, very powerful role in shaping how the events are perceived around the world. For many global audiences, international news networks, agencies, the news agencies around the world, and digital platforms now online are the primary sources which they understand the developments, what's taking place in our region or any region around the world. So journalism, however, is not only about reporting the news. It's also, as it happens, it is also about providing context, verifying information, and presenting the developments with clarity, balance, so that audiences can properly understand the situation, the complex situation. Many people outside our region, in other parts of the world, may not have deep knowledge of the history, the historical facts, the political situation, or the cultural background of the conflict that's taking place. As a result, the way stories are framed through headlines, images, or even commentary can strongly influence how the audiences interpret the events. And when they interpret the events, they ultimately shape the global public opinion about what's going on. In today's digital media environment, information spreads across the world within seconds, very quickly. This rapid flow of information, of the news, can quickly influence the public discussions or the political debates, and sometimes even the diplomatic responses in other countries. This is why responsible journalism is so important. When international media presents accurate, balanced, and well-verified information, it helps foster a more informed global conversation. Also, on the other hand, reporting that lacks context or reporting that oversimplifies events, this can sometimes lead to misunderstanding and even mistrust. So you mistrust the content. So while the speed of modern media creates pressure to publish quickly, professional journalists and journalism must always prioritize verification, the accuracy of the news over the speed delivery. And in the long run, credibility and public trust are far more valuable than being the first to report a story.
And Mr. Mazen, what, in your view, in your opinion, what responsibilities do international media outlets have when reporting on sensitive security developments, especially to deliver accuracy and transparency?
Yeah, especially like the situation that we are going through right now. So the most fundamental responsibility of international media outlets is, in my opinion, in three core points. First, you have accuracy of the news. You have to verify the news. And, of course, you have to be neutrality, unbiased. During periods of conflict or heightened security concerns, misinformation can spread very quickly, especially through the social media platforms and the unofficial digital channels. This is a big concern for during conflict. For this reason, professional journalists must be especially careful to verify facts before reporting them or sharing them. Today, we live in an environment where news is constant and it's immediate. In addition to the traditional platforms such as the television, the radio news, and the print newspapers, information also now circulates through smartphones and social media platforms such as Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and what's up. While this allows news to reach out audiences faster than ever, it also makes it more challenging for people to distinguish between credible information and speculation or rumors, false narratives. This is why responsible reporting requires caution in both content and language. Sensational headlines or unverified commentary should also be avoided because they can unintentionally create confusion. They can increase public anxiety or even heighten tensions. Journalists must remember that their reporting does not exist in isolation. The way events are presented can influence how audiences interpret developments and how societies as a whole react to them. Another important responsibility is to maintain neutrality, as we said, to be unbiased. International media outlets should strive to present information objectively and avoid framing stories in ways that appear politically motivated or biased. Public trust in journalism depends heavily on this impartiality. And finally, journalists have a duty to provide context. Security developments rarely occur in isolation. They are often connected to broader regional dynamics or historical factors. Providing this context helps audiences understand events more clearly and reduce the risk of being oversimplifying the narrative. And ultimately, responsible journalism during sensitive times contributes to stability by prioritizing accurate, verified information, balanced information, as well as thoughtful analysis. This is over being speculative or looking for sensationalism.
And Mr. Mazen, what message would you like to give to the Kuwaiti people and people residing in the state of Kuwait in difficult times?
Yes, Abdurrahman. In periods of regional tension, such as what we are going through at the current time, the importance of responsible journalism cannot be overstated. The way conflicts are reported has the power to shape international understanding, can influence public opinion, and contribute to the broader global dialogue. Professional journalists and credible media institutions, therefore, carry a significant responsibility. By prioritizing accuracy, verification, balance, and context, they help ensure that audiences receive reliable information rather than speculation or disinformation. In an age of instant communication and rapidly evolving news cycles and events, the core principles of journalism remain as important as ever. When these principles are upheld, the media not only informs the public, but also contributes to stability, to understanding, and to constructive international engagement.
Mr. Mazen Al-Ansari, thank you for your input and insights to the viewers. So the viewers, that was Mr. Mazen Al-Ansari with his elaborative insights. Now we are back here in the studio with our special guest Abdulaziz Al-Anjari. Mr. Abdulaziz, we're back and we were discussing important segments including Washington's role in the GCC and its war with Iran alongside the Israeli occupation, and of course the Iranian role in the GCC. And I'd like to stay on that for a little bit and ask your opinion on the role of China, the People's Republic of China. Is it a restraining role, or can it play a restraining role, as in restrain Iran from continuous strikes on the region or interference, or is China's let's say control over Tehran is limited?
I would like to be very honest. I am not an expert on everything. I sit with experts. I make sure that whatever I seek is information from a reliable source, whether a physical person or something that is a source for reading material. So I wish to make this as my opinion, not as something that I strongly believe in, but it is something I feel. I think the less countries get involved into this mess, the best. What we need now is mediation and de-escalation. We wish for more pressure to be exerted into the White House. We saw the president's press briefing yesterday, and I know I'm on a state TV program, so I will choose my words carefully. I will say it wasn't up to standard, and it revealed more that makes us worry than makes us feel reassured. He stumbled in few answers. Junior journalists from New York Times and other entities were able to corner the President of the United States with questions he could not answer. That makes me worry. And it makes me optimistic at the same time. Why? Because it makes me believe that the US president didn't want to go into this war. Maybe he was fed false narratives. We have in the US an entity called United Against Nuclear Iran. It was founded in 2008. Their job was to force and push for every US politician, State Department official, White House, president, to have and wage a war against Iran. They are not looking for sanctions, they are looking for a war. And this is only one entity from many entities and many ways to exert pressure on the White House to have war waged against Iran. So when you have so much pressure coming from different angles, and as I said earlier before the break, and we don't see or hear voices from the Gulf, I might succumb to that pressure and then find maybe I made the wrong choice. And the problem with preemptive and reactive is huge. In public diplomacy, in international relations, you need to be preemptive. You need to sense the possibility of exposed electrical wires, sense that this could cause fire, go and present your ideas on what is the best way to tackle that issue before it catches fire. It is not good to always react. When you react to a disaster, you have limited time, which means limited choices, and it limits your capacity to focus because you have a fire that you wish to distinguish and a fire that could grow bigger that you wish to protect, and you have civilians and you have... We need to understand nothing should be taken for granted, and nothing in life is easy. Many people hope to raise a child, and once they have a child, they find it's very difficult. Do they hate the child? No, they don't. But they struggle to make ends meet sometimes. They struggle to give him the best education. They struggle with the way they tolerate his behavior sometimes, or spoil him, or be overprotective. The same thing with the country. We need to treat a country as something that we need to evolve, always produce ideas that cover the shortcomings. A media that sugarcoats the truth is not a healthy media. It's like a media that feeds children sugary foods because you want them to stay quiet. Whitewashing reality to give a false sense of comfort is very bad. You need responsible honesty and a calculated transparency. We need a lot to make sure we have a society, we have a system that allows for preemptive movement rather than reaction after the disaster happens.
And since you mentioned that you sit with the experts and listen to experts as well, and I'm sure there are a lot of Western experts you have sat with, do you see that do you see an underestimation of Gulf's concern about Iran's regional interference from the Western expert, or no? Do you see a clear and adequate understanding of Iran's regional interference?
Iran's regional interference could be a problem for me and you, and could not be a problem for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody can buy Iran's discounted oil, increase his production capacity for his factories, and leverage that problem into a profit for him, this is a good deal. Don't think that everybody cares about human rights.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think everybody cares about abiding with the rule of law. I go to Kuwait and I look that Kuwait never broke international law. One of Kuwait's pinnacle foundations is that it adheres to the United Nations laws and requirements. And this is something that Kuwait could use as its backbone. We never broke the law. We adhered to every resolution. This shouldn't happen. But when you ask earlier, should China interfere, what should the role be? I think everybody now who wishes for peace in this region is to focus more on mediation, de-escalation, because the region, Kuwait and the region in the Gulf, we have become the breadbasket for the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
80, 90 years ago, it was different. Anything that harms the GCC will have ripple effects in all of the Middle East. You have countries that live year to year on International Monetary Fund stipends.
Since we deliver much of...
Yes, you have a fragile economy
mm-hmm.
all around you in the Middle East. You have semi-failing states all around you in the Middle East. Any problem that happens to the Gulf that makes the Gulf forced to focus on rebuilding and limit the handouts that have been generously going to the Middle Eastern countries, that will have huge problems and ramifications in those countries. I'll give an example. Our neighbor, Iraq, almost 50 million population, 8 million government workers. Now they have reduced their output for their oil exports.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't elected a prime minister. A month ago we had, for some reason, the dispute about the maritime borders raised in a level that is very unprecedented.
Yes.
What do you think will happen in Iraq if the government cannot pay salaries to 8 million Iraqis? The easiest excuse will be Kuwait took your money. Not by the official narrative of the Iraqi government, but Iraq is divided by sectors, militias, non-state actors, religious figures. We need to take care of that. So everybody, China,
from a security
Russia,
perspective,
yes, China, Russia, the European Union, they should realize the safety and stability of the GCC means a higher probability of safety in the Middle East as a whole.
And that's from a security perspective. And we were discussing the international relations aspect. But what about the repeated heinous strikes by Iran on the GCC's economic factors? Do you think that has affected the perception of the investors, at least the foreign investors?
Of course. Just as we are overcoming the impacts of the COVID pandemic that had immense pressures on private businesses and governments, we have had unprecedented huge numbers of tourists coming to the region, mainly the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Mega projects that need 10, 15 years to be done. Some of them have been materialized.
Mm-hmm.
And now this strike comes. This is why I say it doesn't make sense what justification comes from Iran regarding those strikes.
Actually, this is one of the questions I was going to get to, which is the mega projects by Saudi Vision, for example, 2030, or other Gulf visions that we have, do you think Iran is intentionally undermining these projects? We're going down, so you're going down with us? Because it doesn't make sense that they're only targeting the US bases. There's always collateral damage, and they've always targeted us even before the US bases.
I wish to say something. I don't know if I'm allowed to it, but
let's keep it.
Okay, I will use the this being live. I want to say it once, and if it is not acceptable, I apologize. The Iranian regime currently is stupid. It's a stupid regime taking stupid actions because the number one trade partners for Iran are the Gulf. The most number of Iranians living outside Iran live in the Gulf. There is no reason for them to do that. They make us sever bridges with them, lower our diplomatic representation with them. We will no longer look at them as long-term stable partners. Any project that Iran could benefit from in the future will not benefit now. Iran will be one of the most profitable partners when there is growth in the region. So it is not about we will grow and you will not grow.
So this is not wise decisions taken by
it's
Iran.
Not wise. It's not wise.
We'll call it not wise decisions taken by Iran, especially that it enjoys a great geographical location to the Gulf. And as you said, any growth to the GCC would benefit them if they had used it the right way.
My friend, their number one trade partner in the world is the UAE. And they bombed the UAE with 1,600 missiles and drones.
That is
it doesn't make sense.
That is saddening. We have witnessed that. And they have bombed Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. And they could have, as you said, and Oman, of course, they could have benefited from the GCC, from bilateral ties, other than bringing themselves down to a war that we have nothing to do with it, on the other hand. So now let's get to more economic in depth, where the Strait of Hormuz, they shut it down. That even made the situation worse. They shut down the Strait of Hormuz, where we, the state of Kuwait and the state of Qatar, for example, have imposed force majeure for the liquefied natural gas and oil. Now, let's talk about Plan B. Okay. We can now manage, let's say, for how long, however it is, okay? We don't want to speak of specific months, and we'll abide by the regulations imposed by the government. But what about Plan B for us, at least, since if this goes in a prolonged disruption and blockade in the Strait of Hormuz?
Alhamdulillah that the harm in Saudi Arabia, because of the vast geographical footprint, is much less than what we are having in Kuwait. From what I know, I mean, logistical companies will shift most of its work to go to Saudi Arabia, heavier, more frequently taken lightly, and this is why we hope it will end very, very soon.
And the situation has shown the importance of coordination between the GCC nations, and it has also shown how prepared we were even before the conflict began, right? So when the conflict began, many have been spreading rumors that Gulf countries can't do much and stuff like that. But we were building up the past few decades, building up in terms of technology, in terms of military defense, and all aspects. So, alhamdulillah, that's showing up, right, in all GCC, not only the state of Kuwait.
I am known to be honest. There are excellent efforts being made, but there are also a few mistakes and mishaps here and there, but they are within the normal range. I have a friend in Japan. In Japan, they have earthquakes every couple of months, depending on the size and the magnitude, but they are prone to having continuous earthquakes. I spoke to a friend in a European country a few years ago, and they had disaster recovery, they had shelters, and they had a natural disaster. And despite their government saying we are prepared, they weren't prepared, because at the end, when the disaster happens, it is very difficult to take what you have been reading and learning and exercise it in reality. In Japan, they are very able to handle natural disasters because they get them all the time. Even their children in schools, they learn what to do when there's an earthquake. Even the backpack that the children in Japan use has a harness to cover their heads and a thickness that makes them susceptible to few debris not impacting them. So at the end, we are not countries that are used to be in such situations. So it is acceptable that we have some mistakes because it is not a normal situation for us to have. And the same thing happens in certain countries when they are facing a pandemic or they are facing an assault by a neighbor like we are having right now. It is not something that is normal. And because it is not normal, we look at what good has been made and what mistakes have been happened. And if you put them in two different scales, I think the current government showed resilience, professionalism, ability to connect intergovernmental entities together to make Kuwaitis and everybody in Kuwait feel safe. Yes.
And so now going back to where I first asked you about your research center, okay? So let's get to the research, and solutions. What message is your research center trying to deliver, at least in such times? Is there a message to be delivered during such times in terms of security and Gulf and Iran crisis that's happening?
I had an expert who, I forgot his name, he works in Sciences Po in Paris. And he said, in a moment of crisis, the official should make his mouth smaller and ears bigger. Meaning, in a moment of crisis, listen more and speak less. And I think what we need is, we need to show people that those with credible knowledge should have a space to speak, to share their ideas, because walillah alhamd, Kuwait is filled with credible, high quality, high caliber individuals. Whether people in their 20s and 30s or seasoned veterans in their 70s, 80s and beyond. But we often find that within closed discussions, there is no connection between them and anybody else in the government. So we know this guy is an expert in this field. This guy writes research papers and presents them in those international arenas on a regular basis. But that doesn't translate to how Kuwait can utilize that wealth of knowledge, that wealth of expertise. So if I would have an advice, I would say there should be a way to not only have credible, high quality Kuwaitis in Kuwait as if they are trophies on the wall that you are proud to have. We should utilize them to impact the reality and the future of Kuwait and everybody living in it.
And what about by looking forward, okay? Looking forward, in your view, what combination between diplomacy and deterrence and regional cooperation is needed to reduce the Iran-Gulf tensions, at least that is coming?
If you speak to somebody weeks after the US dropped its bomb on Japan, nobody will allow for such a question to be asked. They will say, what, the US relations? We don't want that. So I think the real question is, how can we ensure that what happened doesn't happen again? How can we ensure that the voices from the region have a platform to speak on? How can we ensure that Gulf voices are seen and heard? How we can make sure that there is a way to have a preemptive thinking rather than a reactive thinking. As I said, when you are sensing an issue somewhere, you can plan scenarios, you can headhunt people that you might need if that crisis happens. If it doesn't happen, you are prepared. But if it happens, you are ready to take action. So there's a difference between a crisis happen and taking action that you might modify 10, 20%, and a crisis happen that you start to think about how to resolve it. Time passes, and that's very, very, very expensive.
We condemn the heinous strikes that are happening, and we'd like them to stop immediately. And nobody is open to speak about relations with Iran, as you said. Yes, and we all condemn the heinous strikes. But I think one of the most important things as well is at least to make them stop these heinous strikes right away, right before continuing to target civilians.
What can you and I do about it? I don't think we can do much. As they say in the West, this is above my pay grade. There are people who should be now, as we speak, discussing options. Every country has weaknesses, and every regime has skeletons in the closet, as they say. Nobody is immune from a threat that could impact him. But you need to know what action causes the most damage to Iran, the less damage to you, that doesn't cost lives. On both sides, innocent civilians should not pay the price for reckless politics. On both sides, innocent civilians shouldn't be the victims of the collateral damage. You can call a building catching fire collateral damage, but never dare call a soul that dies collateral damage. It's not acceptable. And I think a lot are paying the price for reckless politics. And the most reckless politics that is happening in the world right now is by the Israeli occupied territories. And as we have seen in the past week, second to that is Iran. And those are causing all the problems that we are having right now. Yes, the missiles are coming from Iran, but we don't need to forget, it was insinuated by the Israeli occupied territories. And this is the problem we have. We cannot deal with Israel, but we can deal with Iran.
Exactly, and we adhere to our government laws and regulations, and of course we also act as ordinary people. We act upon the wise leadership's directives, and they know the best of what they do during the conflict. And of course we do, as Kuwaitis and people residing here, condemn the strikes happening here as the state does itself. But also, if you had to give a message to the people residing here in the state of Kuwait and the Kuwaitis residing here, what message would you give them?
My message, number one, would be, I hope everybody is safe. Number two, my prayer goes to everybody who is suffering. And my utmost respect goes to the families who lost lives in this crisis. And inshallah, I'll speak in Arabic, Rabbi awudhum, وصبرهم. It's been very hard and very difficult, but nobody can compare the difficulties he endured to those who lost a loved one.
Yes.
And this is, I think, the tipping point of no return with Iran. Once they caused deaths among Kuwaitis and non-Kuwaitis, it becomes very evident. This is a regime that is reckless, malicious, that doesn't respect anybody. Doesn't respect we are in Ramadan. Doesn't respect we didn't have any offensive attack against them. Doesn't respect civilians. Doesn't respect residential areas or commercial buildings. What else should we speak about that regime?
And also, we're not a third party, and we haven't even let anyone use our land. So this is not justified in all aspects.
Allah yarhama, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed was the first GCC Emir head of state to visit Iran to try and reconcile, to try and build a bridge. I don't know how to say it in English. Mukafu. we see now that the Iranians mukafu. And for anybody who wants to know what mukafu is, it means they are not deserving, not worth.
You think they're not worth?
They are not worth the investments, the political investment, the economic investment, the diplomatic investment that Kuwait had done with them.
Yeah,
they made it clear that we made the wrong choice treating them as a credible state, unfortunately. And as I said in the beginning, I was one of the voices that was happy when Iran normalized with Saudi Arabia and thought this was a good beginning for the region. Now, regardless of whoever is controlling this mess, whoever is dictating which buttons to push, which drones to send, which missiles to come all over the skies of Kuwait and the Gulf, that person or persons made us now look at Iran as a country that we wish to quarantine, never deal with it, at least for the foreseeable future.
In a very different way. And especially you were telling me in the beginning as well. So just before we ended, so you were telling me as well that as also many observers say that in the past the relation has been kind of quiet diplomacy, things were building up, and they have destroyed every single hope they have with not only the state of Kuwait, but with the GCC, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And at the end, we abide by what our government decides.
Exactly.
We abide by the strategy that they decide.
They know best.
But since there is no clear strategy now on how to act towards Iran, how to speak towards Iran, alhamdulillah, we are using that gap of unclarity to say what we think about Iran.
Exactly, yeah. And if any action is taken by our government, it sure is studied and observed and done for the best of the country and people.
I believe in the backdoor channels. I believe in the American way and the British system.
Mm-hmm.
If you have something that you don't like, go to the official, speak to him privately. I am against people bringing down an official or the government by being vulgar, critiquing them. There is a difference between expressing an opinion publicly and bringing down a government official and be very hard, very harsh in critiquing them. So exactly. I know that
this is not even considered a critique. You're just being disrespectful.
Some people, my friend, some people, all they want is a viral moment, a trend, clicks of likes to what they say to feel certain level of satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
But they cause harm. I like the approach of seeing something I don't like. If I know the official, I will WhatsApp him, meet with him, tell him privately in a calm manner what I believe. Sometimes they take it seriously, sometimes they don't, and that's the end of it. Act as a good citizen, as a consultant. Your job is to speak the truth privately. Mm-hmm. If they take by it, good. If they don't, your job is just to consult. Your job is not to enforce your opinion. Nobody has the right to enforce his opinion. Mm-hmm. Nobody sitting in his home, drinking his tea, typing for a minister or a prime minister, you should do this, why did you do that? Nobody has the power, nobody has the authority, nobody is allowed to dictate what the government should do. You can only advise. And if your advice is not wrapped in diplomacy and in good manners, it won't be taken, it won't be read. It will be counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's clear. And thank you for your input and elaborative answers the past hour. Mr. Abdulaziz Al-Anjari, founder and CEO of Reconnaissance Research. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. I think if it lasted 2 more minutes, my tips will freeze.
It's quite cold in here.
Very cold.
Isn't it? Yeah. So now the viewers will take a quick break and be back to you.
تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها للاستجابة للطوارئ والكوارث في ظل الأوضاع الجيوسياسية الحاصلة في المنطقة. جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي تعمل من ضمن منظومة إنسانية متكاملة مع مؤسسات دولة الكويت من حيث الاستجابة السريعة وتجهيز المتطوعين من ضمن أفرقة مختلفة للاستجابة للطوارئ في سرعة قصوى. يعد متطوعين جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي من المتطوعين اللي تم تدريبهم مكثفاً في الإسعافات الأولية والاستجابة للكوارث والاستجابة الميدانية. تؤكد جمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي جاهزيتها الميدانية ورفع جاهزيتها من حيث الاستجابة للطوارئ في حالات اللي يتم ندائها. بالنسبة للمخزون الاستراتيجي لجمعية الهلال الأحمر الكويتي، فإحنا على أتم الاستعداد للاستجابة في حال النداء من قبل مؤسسات حكومة دولة الكويت.
الإدارة العامة للدفاع المدني على استعداد تام وجاهزية عالية، ونعمل وفق خطط مدروسة ومحدثة باستمرار لمواجهة أي طارئ، ونتابع مع الجهات الحكومية كل ما يخص احتياجاتها لضمان استمرار نظام سير العمل وعجلة الإنتاج وسير الحياة الطبيعية، ونقول للجميع سلامتكم أولويتنا.
الحرس الوطني قادة وقوات دائما على استعداد وجاهزية تامة لحماية الوطن بالتعاون مع زملاء السلاح في وزارتي الدفاع والداخلية وقوة الإطفاء العام، وتقديم الدعم والإسناد لكافة جهات الدولة خاصة في أوقات الأزمات والطوارئ. ونسأل الله أن يحفظ وطننا الكويت من كل مكروه في ظل قيادته الرشيدة.
تؤكد وزارة الكهرباء والماء والطاقة المتجددة بأن عمليات توليد الطاقة الكهربائية وتحلية المياه تسير وفق الخطط التشغيلية المعتادة، وتؤكد الوزارة على جاهزيتها التامة للتعامل مع أي طارئ من خلال خطط متكاملة تتضمن الإجراءات الواجب اتباعها لاستمرارية الكهرباء والماء. وتوفر لدى الوزارة كفاءات وطنية مؤهلة وعلى أعلى درجات الاستعداد لتفعيل هذه الخطط متى ما دعت الحاجة. والمخزون الاستراتيجي من المياه العذبة في البلاد في ازدياد، إلى جانب توفر مخزون من المياه الجوفية، مما يعزز قدرة المنظومة الوطنية على الصمود والتعامل مع مختلف الظروف.
الحرس الوطني قادة وقوات دائما على استعداد وجاهزية تامة لحماية الوطن بالتعاون مع زملاء السلاح في وزارتي الدفاع والداخلية وقوة الإطفاء العام، وتقديم الدعم والإسناد لكافة جهات الدولة خاصة في أوقات الأزمات والطوارئ. ونسأل الله أن يحفظ وطننا الكويت من كل مكروه في ظل قيادته الرشيدة.
And viewers, we are back, and this brings us to the end of our latest special coverage, but it's not the end for the day, as there is an upcoming news bulletin, main news bulletin of the local and regional stories by my colleague Mohammed Al-Jasmi. And of course, we will continue to give you latest special coverages by the day, as we have one tomorrow and the day after, every day from 7 and onwards, 7 p.m. and onwards. And of course, as we have been informed by our dear guest here in the studio, to always be sure that the officials are doing their best, that the state of Kuwait remains stable during such difficult times, and everything is efficient and working effectively, and not to believe any rumors being spread on social media platforms or through the AI generated videos. So always abide by the official statements, abide by what officials say, abide by what spokespersons say, and also appreciate the government officials and government personnel, and of course the Ministry of Defence system and personnel, and Interior and their personnel as well, and the Ministry of Health staff. Appreciate the work they're doing, and all the ministries and their staff, not to forget anyone. And of course, we are here as well at the Ministry of Information, and our staff is doing a great job as well. Appreciate the effort is being done to continue in delivering the best practice to go as smooth as possible through this difficult time, and of course to deliver the latest regarding the conflict, and of course to deliver the help that the state of Kuwait needs, so that we remain strong and we remain solid, and that we remain strong during such difficult time. And as of now, I will leave you with my colleague Mohammed Jasmi in the upcoming main news bulletin, and we will see you with other coverages tomorrow. Goodbye.